flipping the whole paradigm of that hierarchical system on its head.
We must first understand what is really taking place. Floating in a sea of misinformation, outright lies, and institutionalized indoctrination. Together, we are flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Hi and good evening. Sorry about the late start, but welcome along. You're listening to the reality check with Bluebus on Flipping the Pyramid, live from the website this evening, on this Monday evening, the 20th of August 2012. I hope you're all doing well, all in the chat there. Had a few issues with the server for a sec, but I'm here, so here for a good hour or so, and welcome along to the show. Like I say, reality check time, once a week, here we go. I hope you're all doing well. I've had a interesting week scanning various news and stuff and seeing what's going on in the world in general, and here to sort of present some of the happenings that have been going on around our planet this last 7 days or so, and going deeper into things as well, and giving it a slightly esoteric or spiritual view of mine as well, which I go into on occasions, like some others do on here as well. So it's all good. It all adds to, I think, the real sort of search for the real truth, really, and all we see happening around us in our daily lives, in our mainstream media, bombarded at every angle with everything, trying to make sense of it all and trying to unravel the lies from the truth and the deceptions by our mainstream channels and what people are conditioned to believe, and yes, the whole mess of it all, really, trying to make sense of this mad world we live in, yeah, so I hope you're all doing okay. And like I say, the big news story that obviously has been sort of especially in the UK, especially if you're listening in the UK, one of the main stories I have to just mention, I know Keelan touched on it last night, the last 20 minutes of his show, is the WikiLeaks phenomenon, along with the 2012 one. But anyway, that's another story. But yes, the WikiLeaks, it's becoming more and more apparent now that something is very, very fishy going on with WikiLeaks, and as more and more information comes out, I must admit, when it first came into the news, I didn't really pay an awful lot of attention to it, mainly because one of the reasons was because there was nothing of any real substance being released. That was something that I thought, has been mentioned again since. WikiLeaks hasn't really been at the forefront of any real truths, really. It's released a few things, a few emails as such, a few things being sent backwards and forwards from the UK across Europe, America, etc., upsetting, the powers that be, but no real meat, as I think Nick said that the other day in Skype. No real meat there, and he's right. There's nothing of any real, you can get your teeth into here. Come on, what's really, the stuff we really want to know. And WikiLeaks, unfortunately, has fallen short, I think. And as we see with poor old Bradley Manning, who was caught red-handed leaking information, he's unfortunately been incarcerated for quite some time now in harsh conditions. So, he's the one who's really been left in the mess. But Mr. Assange, however, who also, I found out, does not support 9/11 truth, does not want to even entertain it. That should send alarm bells ringing everywhere about, what his real motive is here, because there's more holes in the 9/11 story than a Swiss cheese, as we've been saying. So, someone to just totally dismiss that is going down the route of some other people who've come out and said, 9/11, etc. So anyone who can't really see into the total whitewash of 9/11 and the official story, for me, there's question marks about, what is this guy really about then? I know he wants to release information, etc., but there's more going on here, and the amount of media circus that's surrounding the whole thing suggests to me it's all planned, it's all been contrived, it's all been worked out, this, and some have suggested he's a secret operative, but I have to say, with what's been going on, especially with this Ecuadorian embassy business, where we've had threats of the British storming the embassy to remove him, upsetting lots of South American countries in the process, who've all come together now to support Ecuador in their fight for freedom. The hypocrisy is just, it goes on and on, but these same countries have violated human rights themselves, so you can just see the whole thing is a contrived story to what I can see anyway. And lots of people are falling for this because they're going on the freedom, the right to free speech. You can't be incarcerated, and they're not really looking at the bigger picture. And I've seen a lot of people today post on Facebook and other social sites supporting him in the sense that he's for freedom. But when you really look deeper into it, it's just it's a scam, basically. I mean, WikiLeaks. And the whole thing, I mean, like I say, what have they really released? Not very much. Not much to sort of change anything, that's for sure. And with the mainstream media being all over it from day one, would suggest to me there's more to this. And we'll see how things develop. But in the last sort of 24 hours or so, he made his sort of speech on the balcony of the Ecuadorian embassy yesterday, and people cheering, people giving him sort of, we wish you all the best, etc. But just the whole thing to me just stinks of some kind of agenda, something going on, and we shall see how things pan out. But if they do decide they're going to let him go, which will be interesting, we'll just see how. Like I say, it's an interesting story. That's all I can say. How it's going to pan out, how it's going to work out, who knows? But I certainly think there's more going on here underneath the surface, and I've never been particularly sort of, if you like, taken by the WikiLeaks thing anyway from day one, because there was nothing of any real interest in there. Releasing footage of men in helicopters shooting innocent people on the ground. I mean, that was something that was released by them, but it's something that we've seen or very similar anyway. It's nothing, what I'm saying, it's nothing earth-shattering. We know they kill innocent civilians. We know they bomb, villages and towns, and they kill people randomly. It's a bloodletting. It's been going on for centuries, and because we're now more in the loop than ever before, we can see these things playing out on a daily basis. I mean, just look at any news from the last week, and you just the body count just goes up and up and up for terrorist attacks, innocents being shot. Even South African miners, 34 of them shot dead for protesting against their working conditions and wages. It's just not even a war going on there, guys. Total oppression. And who's going to be brought to book for that, I wonder. But, like I say, the body count just goes up and up and up. And it's, like I say, WikiLeaks have brought nothing new to the table. Nothing. Just a big circus of, I want to be free, and let's do this. It's not really getting these people brought to book who are committing these atrocities, who are allowing these wars to continue, who are supporting them, who are, speaking up for war, speaking up for violence, but disguise it as freedom, disguise it as peace, democracy. We will bomb you into democracy. We've seen it so many times. So WikiLeaks for me, unfortunately, was a non-starter as far as I could see. And like I say, it's playing a game. It's a game. It's almost like the Occupy movements. Again, when you look deeply into the Occupy movement and who was controlling, say, the money, the donations, it was found out very quickly that this money was being filtered into a bank. Funnily enough, it wasn't going to help the people who were, sleeping outside rough in tents and giving it to the people who need it. It was being filtered away. And it transpires that all these things are, if you like, social experiments run by our own governments to see how we will react in certain ways in certain situations. And if they get a feeling of people becoming more awake and aware, isn't it funny how these things suddenly just spring up out of nowhere? They're, like I said before, they're monitoring pretty much everything people are doing on social media now with the computer. So easily tracked. They can get a mood for the nation, a mood for the people. They've also planned scenarios out years in advance of, any kind of sort of, if people start, getting it, starting to realise that they're being, conned, and their government isn't who they thought they really were. They weren't the nice people who were, helping us and, looking after us. When that penny drops with some, it can create some sort of, violent reaction. So they've got everything kind of like, if you like, already prepped. But with the Occupy movements, when they came up last year, again, another example of people suddenly thinking, that's a good idea, I'll go there with all good intention, but then find themselves being drawn into a group of people who I saw, a few YouTube videos of people filming, these meetings that they were having, these so-called open meetings. And basically it was run by one person, using something called the Delphi technique, which the Tavistock Institute have mastered over the years, So they put in their man, basically, because when you turn up at these events, you don't know who you're meeting, you don't know who these people are, you've just met them for the first time. You think, because you're a good person, they're going to be the same as you. They're there for the same reasons, but no, they are not. This is all set up. And commonly known as Dom exposed that quite magnificently, really, in the last sort of 12 months or so. Got in there and started asking the questions that needed to be asked to the people who he needed to ask them to. And he got no response, or he was asked to leave. So, that says everything to me. And where is the Occupy movement now? Nowhere. No one is doing anything. And now we have the WikiLeaks nonsense. Again, same group of people, same kind of thinking. Let's go and support Julian Assange. But they're being drawn in too. And it's just a learning curve for people. If you realise it's been going on and you've been suckered this way, then don't be downhearted in any sense, because this was the idea, this was their intention, to create this kind of negativity within people who are becoming aware and understanding who they are, and know that they, are not going to be, slaves anymore, for want of a better term. So this is what's been going on, and it's very clever. It's very well organised. They know us better than we know ourselves, so to speak. So they've been working on this for quite some time. So when they see any kind of raise in the consciousness or the level of, understanding, they bring something out like a sort of, like a distraction, and a deflection. So all these distraction techniques are, being seen through. That's the good thing. See, so that gives me some hope that people are seeing through the nonsense. Some people aren't there yet, but they're getting there. But it's just sometimes you have to take a step back before you can take a step forward in your understanding, because you will be led down some dodgy paths. So it's all about just taking stock, looking at the bigger picture, and not just jumping straight in, going there, running, going, yes, let's join this, because it's not, you have to think about what you're doing, because what are you actually supporting? And it seems to me like Julian Assange and WikiLeaks is a government op. It just seems so apparent to me, and people are supporting that, thinking that they're doing something good, when in actual fact they're just they'll all walk away and go home. A bit like when they go on the protests, they all carry their banners around and they all shout and scream, and then they all put them down, go home and go and watch X Factor or something and forget all about it. I've done my bit. So that's the intention. That's what they want. They want you to believe that you've got some say, and using these very clever techniques that they use to draw people out, to get a better idea of how people are responding. Is important to them, because they need to know what sort of plans to make next, you see. So it's all very clever, and all run through the media as well, with the mainstream media as their main weapon to convince you that it's all true, and WikiLeaks is this, that and the other, and all the rest of it, and to confuse you and to distract you, like I say. So yes, I did see an interesting Reuters article, which did catch my attention, because it was just the way it was written. And as you know, Reuters and the BBC and all that is, not my favourite news outlet, but I do occasionally take a look because I want to know what's going on with their twisted little minds and how they want to try and manipulate the masses. So this is saying about Assange's life in the embassy and how, how he's having, he's living in cramped conditions and etc. He's living on takeaway meals apparently in a small room with a treadmill to burn off frustrated energy and a vitamin D lamp to make up for the lack of sunlight. Julian Assange has the one material thing he values the most: a computer with an internet connection. So he's happy. But just the whole thing, like I say, the whole way it's been presented, he's living in that embassy, he's living it up. He's, someone did say, I think it was a Webster Tarpley interview that I heard the other day, only a 10-minute thing, regarding, where's the money? Where's the money coming from? How's he being funded? So people have followed the money trail and come up with some very interesting things, especially about people who actually are in charge or on the board of WikiLeaks or whatever it is. People connected to high corporations and companies, which again, there's a lot of question marks, again, suggesting that it isn't what it seems to be. So just interesting stuff coming out. So lots of propaganda, lots of crap, lots of BS, and all the rest of it. And it will continue on, no doubt. But, anyways, I want to leave WikiLeaks aside just for a moment. I'll probably end up going back in a circle and ending up back there in about 45 minutes' time. But one interesting other story, well, not a story really, it's a new video that came out. I just want to mention it because it's quite important. I've been thinking about this, especially since I watched the movie. Was the follow-up to What in the World Are They Spraying to Why in the World Are They Spraying, which was just released a couple of days ago, and watched it last night after someone dropped the link in Skype. So watched that last night and got me thinking quite a lot, especially with regards to the general condition of our weather at the moment, and not just in Europe, of course, but in America as well. And Why in the World Are They Spraying? An excellent film. I recommend everyone watch it, and also watch the first one if you haven't seen the first one. Enlightening information by professional people who are speaking out, and because it is the sort of subject matter, I think they can sort of speak out about weather manipulation, because the probably powers that be don't really care that much about it. But if you look at the what's been happening across our just the UK alone, just in this last 3 or 4 months, we've had extremely large amounts of rainfall, and in America we've had the opposite, no rainfall at all, drought conditions. And when you watch the movie and the explanations of how they can heat up the ionosphere using, we've known this for a while, using HARP technologies. We've known about weather manipulation, geoengineering for quite some time, since the Second World War. So it's just putting all this information really together with people who are speaking about it in the right way, and saying, look, this is not right. This is, people, if you give them control of your weather, you basically, it's a weapon. Weather is used as a weapon. It's been proven, I think, creating rainstorms in the Burmese jungles and stuff in the 1950s. I think they were using that technology to try and flush out the enemy, whatever it was used for. But as we see over here, it did make me think this summer, we've had this sort of Occupy thing, and my mind going over time again. But the amount of lack of outdoor activities and people getting out there and meeting, especially this summer, I thought we were going to see a big summer sort of a gathering of people and getting together, but it hasn't happened. And one of the main reasons for that, it's been pissing down for 3 months continuously almost in the UK, off and on. And it dampens a lot of people's spirits. And if you can control the weather, and we do know that in Europe, and in fact not far from the UK, they do have stations set up to do weather geoengineering projects, and these are all set up in and around Europe, across the world as well, and they'll all link into this technology, increased precipitation, etc. But if you watch the film, it'll explain it a lot better than I can in the short time that I have. But the bottom line is, it is a reality. It is taking place, and it has been for quite some time. Whether you want to admit it or not is entirely up to you. But if you look at the evidence available and the people who are presenting that evidence, it suggests to me that there's definitely something which needs to be explained and basically stopped, because there's no need for it. Obviously, people are benefiting, and as we know, the higher ups, the powers that be, so they will do whatever they want anyway. But like I say, this information's coming to light. People need to be more aware of it, and hopefully these are getting to the right people. And like I say, the information is accurate, and it's coming from trustworthy sources. But just one sort of interesting article I saw linking into a sort of, how they're getting people conditioned, if you like, to look up at the sky and see different anomalies and becoming more, accepting of them rather than questioning them. There was a story coming out of the Mail, the Daily Fail. It says, the cloud with no name. It says, meteorologists campaign to classify unique, it's called here, asperities clouds seen across the world. Now, these pictures of these asperities clouds, don't look anything like chemtrails. But I think the whole idea of this particular story is to get you used to looking at things in the sky that you may not know what they are, but you just become to accept them, so you don't question. It says some experts believe the stormy weather phenomenon deserves its very own classification. I'll post the link in so you can look at the pictures. It just looks like what we've been having in the UK for the past sort of, I'd say, since about May, because it's a stormy looking sky, very sort of strange looking. But I'll post it in. Have a look. Hopefully my links will work in here. There we go. If that works, then check out the picture. But the main reason I would sort of put the story in was because, again, it's another Daily Mail classic of getting you used to sort of seeing things. And if you look up in the sky and go, oh, what are those lines? And someone go, oh, they're chemtrails. No, they're not. That's called. They'll have a name for them soon. It says experts at the Royal Meteorological Society are now attempting to make it official by naming it asperities, after the Latin word for rough. But you can see, like I say, if you look at that article, I won't read it out, but it's getting people accustomed to looking at different things. Scientists say they're going to do this, and we just accept it, rather than questioning, well, why is it happening? Why is that, the way it is? And the evidence that we've now got regarding, chemical trails, and what's being sprayed, what it's doing to the atmosphere, whether it's reflecting the sun back to cool the earth, or whether it's creating, if you like, a grid for these incoming low pressure storms, so it can link to them, that sort of thing. This film's excellent for sort of pointing out things and putting pieces together, so I highly recommend it. I'm sure the link's gone in the chat, because I haven't got it, but like I say, if you just Google it anyway, if you're listening on podcast, it's why in the world are they spraying? Just type that in and you'll get the movie come up, and it's about an hour and 10 minutes, so it's not too bad. It's not a 3-hour epic or anything, but if you do watch the other one as well, it's about an hour as well, so well worth watching both of them. But like I say, it seems to me that in America they've got the drought, they've got problems out there with obviously their food supply, and they will have. So as we've said many times, food prices will start to increase. We've also got problems over here with our harvests. There was some reports in certain parts of the UK that farmers have been struggling to produce the crops normally at this time of year, when they've got no problems because of flooding. So we're going to see, again, another excuse to increase food prices over here, if they're not already expensive enough. So it's it's all going on, and it does make me think. When you witness these things, we've seen it happening around us. The weather is, it's in front of us every day. We stick our head out the window, we go out, and we can see that something isn't quite right, especially with the trails in the sky. That like I say, everybody's been noticing more and more these past 4 or 5 years, especially me. But some people were saying they've been going back to sort of the 90s maybe. But I certainly don't remember them as a child. So there's something that has happened more and more increasingly over the last, I'd say, 10, maybe 15 years. But I've noticed them in the last 5 quite a lot. And there's enough information out there to get people awake and aware about this as well. So if people are more informed, then that's all good. But like I say, if you haven't seen the movie, check it out. It's very, very good. Right, I'm going to have a little break. I'm going to play a little bit of music. So I will select a tune, and I'll come back in. How many minutes is this song? Actually, I'll play a heavy song, which is unlike me, but I found this. See if you like it. It's not heavy, really. It's an old 80s cheesy pop song, but it's goes excuse for rock music. Maybe got in the charts. But it's an old one anyway. I'll be back in about 4 minutes, guys, and we'll get into a few other little topics.
Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid. .co.uk.
Flip the pyramid. Turning that pyramid on its head.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flip the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Flip the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.co.uk.
Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.co.uk.
Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the whole paradigm of that hierarchical system on its head.
Absolutely. Flipping the pyramid. Welcome back. It's Bluebus on Monday evening. It's the reality check. And we were just chatting the first half an hour, or I was, to myself, to you guys, regarding the WikiLeaks stuff and the chemtrail spraying and all that. So I want to move on to something a little bit different, but just to remind people as well to check out the website, flippingthepyramid.co.uk. Check the podcasts, the radio shows that are all archived on there. If you've missed any, you can catch up. But we've got lots of shows. I think 4 shows, 5 shows a week now. If you check out the site, and it'll give you all the details. But the next show after me, who's it? Ian, yes, with For the Punks. He'll be doing his show on Wednesday between 8 and 9. So check him out. And after him on Thursday between 9 and 11, it's Cookie with Virtual Shamanizing. And Red on Friday evening between 9 and 11, doing his Conscious Beats music show. Excellent as always, and check out all the shows on here. And Sunday, Keelan is back, but he's not back this Sunday. He's back the Sunday after on a regular weekly basis. So that's the Wide Shut webcast with Keelan Balderson on Sunday evenings between 8 and 9. So that's what we have here. And like I say, the site has got lots of information, videos, blogs, etc. Lots of information there. And like I say, go and check it out if you're listening on the podcast. And you just happen to stumble upon us because we're here all the time. And like I say, I do a weekly show here. And long may it continue. A place where you can voice your opinion. Yes, it is only my opinion, but things need to be said by the normal bloke on the street. And that's what we're about. We're nothing. We're not journalists. We're not anybody who's got any agenda other than getting to the core of what the hell has been going on and what we can do to change it, and get other people. It's a deprogramming experience, which it can take a lifetime. We're all on that path. I think the people who are in here, we're sort of relearning again what we've been sort of indoctrinated with over the years, and that's what I think a lot of people are now sort of finding themselves in, that sort of conscious state of thinking what is going on, and thankfully they have tools like the internet to go and source information, or at least get links to things to read, and other people's opinions. And I think that's been one of the most the best things to happen, really, that we can all connect in this way and say how we feel, and what we've been having to put up with. And not just us, not just us in this country or in our lives here, but across the planet also, and how we turn blind eyes all too readily to, atrocities that are going on, as we speak, and we don't seem to be bothered. I know we are, but a lot of, like I say, people who are still in that process of the conditioning, or they believe everything they're told, they are, turning the blind eye, and they're not really questioning anything the government or any authority for that matter tells them. They just accept it blindly, or they might have a little whinge and a moan and a little protest, but it goes ahead anyway. So that's what we're all about here, and something I've been sort of banging on now for weeks and weeks on here is the surveillance society we live in. And I just noticed an interesting story that I'm not going to read it out. It's just an example of how things are filtering through to the mainstream now. This is a story that comes out of The Guardian by Naomi Wolf. She's obviously a Guardian journalist, and she's written quite an interesting article about it's called The New Totalitarianism of Surveillance Technology. And this sort of encompasses everything what I've been talking about, what we've all been talking about these past few years, regarding the increase of surveillance technology. And it's becoming more and more apparent now when it starts filtering into places like The Guardian with articles like this. I think it makes interesting reading, because this that's again telling you exactly what they're doing without any they don't care really. They're just telling you what's happening, and they don't like it, but it's just going to happen anyway. So if you read the article, it's interesting. It comes up with some interesting stuff, but it's there's sort of like a shocking sort of paragraph at the beginning there, where some guy takes his child to Disney World and has the photograph taken, and basically it's already been put up and charged before he's even got to see it. So they've already sort of, if you like, recognized him using face recognition technology in the Disney theme park. So it's kind of an interesting sort of way in which it's becoming more and more apparent to people just how much they're being watched, and just how much of their freedom's actually being taken away from them without their permission. It's just accepted as normal. And it's the way we should, it's just the new technology. It makes things easier, doesn't it? What are you complaining about? But the problem is, it's the way it's used on the, if you like, by the authorities to track, monitor, and database everybody. Which is the, as we've said, it's the step before the, the total chip, or the, as we move into biometrics, a slow introduction to. Monitoring you and knowing exactly where you are at all times. The paranoid state in action. So these stories now are becoming more mainstream. People are beginning to become more aware of them. But are they really sort of asking the question: is it right or is it wrong? That's my question. Are these people actually thinking it's okay? And some people I've spoken to seem to think it is okay. But when you point out to them, would you mind me reading all of your emails, and or are you going to make a text message right now? Do you mind if I read it before you send it? And they'll say no. Well, of course, but that's exactly what this technology's capable of doing, as we've seen on so many occasions with applications on your phone. Like I say, I keep going on about this, but people being able to read all your personal information, with your knowledge, because you've accepted the terms and conditions. And you haven't read them, or you're not aware of them. So these companies are allowed to, just basically use your data as they please. And the government do it anyway. I mean, this is nothing new. It's just becoming, again, with the census, for instance. I mean, that information is definitely 100% sold to outside parties. It was proven. I think in the census, not the recent one we just had, but the one 10 years previous. It was proven that information that appeared on the census was being sold to third-party interests. So, the government do it, everybody's doing it, but the way it's becoming so invasive now is when you're walking into shops, etc., and you're being identified for various products, or, that to me is quite shocking, because I think, well, I don't want you to know where I am actually. And people are just buying into this because it's all done off the face of gadgets and nice shiny things that they can use and think they're cool. But what they're doing is they're selling their freedoms down the river at the same time. So, as I've said before, I've mentioned a few times, I'm thinking my Facebook has to go soon, but I'm looking at other ways of maybe trying to, stay in touch. But we've got so hooked into this. They've given us something that we find a very useful tool, but it's being used for the darker side as well. We see with people with their Facebook, posts now can be used in court. They can be used as evidence. We see the gentleman who was, I think, in the U.S. Army, who's been taken to a mental hospital for posting things online that on his Facebook that would, nothing out of the, nothing totally bad, just his own thoughts and own opinions. And he's been arrested and sectioned or put in a mental hospital out in the States. So, there's many stories. You can go back, people being, especially when the London riots were on. I think some people got a few years in prison for, inciting violence online. But, these are the sorts of things that are happening more and more often now. So to express your opinion now, it's the thought police. You have to think before you speak. That's what they want you to be doing. They want you so paranoid. They want you so locked down in their paranoid culture that you won't be able to think straight. And we have to snap out of that. We have to, see that for what it is, and never be frightened, never be fearful, because they want you in a state of fear. That's how they can control you, within that state of fear. If you're not fearful, then you can't be controlled. And like I say, they were measuring this last year with the Occupy movements, how many people are going to come out. What can we get a handle on? How many people are actually getting it now and a bit more savvy and a bit more with it and are not going to put up with this bullshit anymore. And I really do think that this is why these were brought out and created. So it's an interesting thought, and I think to think anything about this social networking as a good, positive thing. We've seen the complete opposite. We've seen the negative. We've seen how, again, it even instills fear when you go online. Oh, I might not be able to write that. Oh, don't put that. You might get the police knocking on your door. Oh, don't put that. You might upset so-and-so. I mean, this is where we're at. It's ridiculous. If someone has something to say and you don't agree with it, well, you don't agree with it. That's fine. As long as they're not sort of, in your face all of the time, go away. Yeah, I don't want to be around you. Okay, you've got your opinion, fine. I don't agree with that, and I'll go this way and you can go that way. End of. That's how it should be. But we've turned into, like I say, a world of paranoia, and that's what they've certainly tried to do in the UK, especially with all of the CCTV cameras and all of the, we're the world leaders in trying to take away your freedoms in that sense, We've had this technology for so many years now. It's just become normal. And again, people aren't questioning as it goes deeper and deeper into the biometrics, into the iris scans, into the potential RFID chip kind of society. Which is ultimately, I think, people have said this many, many times, but you can see it's actually moving in that direction. So one has to question, are these people been saying this for years mad? But no, you can see it happening. You see it all around you. It's not paranoia. It's a fight for basic freedoms. And saying no is something we all have to learn to do quickly. The word no, it's a very powerful word. Just use it and just don't agree. You're not consenting anymore. If someone agrees with it, well, you don't have to agree with them. And there lies the awakening process, because then you start sort of thinking, oh, my goodness, I don't think like you anymore. And things start changing in your life. And you start to open up, and things start to change. And you might even find yourself diving down a spiritual path, like I did. So, there's a lot going on. We're a lot more than what we think we are or what we're told we are. And that's the thing. And again, told. You didn't be told anything. You've got to think for yourself. That's the problem. People telling you. No. You have to have that, step outside of that and think for you. and you can take people's ideas on board, but you don't have to accept everything. And that's where we should be in our sort of level of awareness now, I think, and that's where people should be getting to, instead of just accepting what's being told to them. And then because their friends tell them, and their wives or husbands tell them, and their colleagues tell them in work or whatever, it doesn't mean it's true. That's the game at work. That's how well they play it. They get everybody thinking, or everyone's attention over here, and it's interesting to see it all play out, really. But yeah, and the other story I wanted to kind of like just chuck in there was the wouldn't say it's related to the surveillance society, but it's another example of them trying to, if you like, create a bigger divide between the rich and the poor, especially over here, because there's a the government's being accused of social cleansing, apparently, after urging councils to sell off prime property. This is a story, I saw this on the Huffington Post. I think it's other areas as well, but saw it on here first. It says a right-wing think tank has been accused of pushing for the poor to be driven out of wealthy areas after suggesting councils should sell off expensive houses to fund new buildings. It says Policy Exchange, an influential think tank, yes, one of those famous think tanks, yes, that make policy. Yes, who are these people? Think tank set up by the Conservative MP Nick Bowles, an ally of Prime Minister David Cameron, said the UK could afford to build 170,000 social homes a year by putting the highest value properties on the market when they become vacant. It says in his report, ending expensive social tenancies. They're not allowed to live in posh houses. These are poor peasants. Get them back where they belong. The think tank says 1 in 5 houses owned by local councils are worth more than the average house price. Oh yes, we've got to do something here, guys. Then we can't have this. It says Labour MP for Westminster Karen Buck told the Huffington Post UK the report didn't make sense, adding, behind the beguiling simplicity of the idea lie some complex realities. The number of council homes has already plummeted over the last 30 years because of the right to buy, with boroughs like my own seeing a near halving of stock. When this policy came in, Margaret Thatcher promised lots of new homes from the proceeds, but the sold homes were never replaced and most of the money disappeared into the Treasury. Yay! People who would once have been eligible for a council home ended up in an expensive private rented homes with the same effect. So the promise was made and broken before. Would it be different now? Well, they'll try and do this, obviously, in certain areas. It says former Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott, why am I mentioning all these names? They make me feel ill, has accused the think tank of trying to drive the poor out of richer areas, saying on Twitter that the report amounted to trying to kick the poor out of the rich areas. But again, another example of governments just, moving in there, saying you're not allowed to live in these big posh houses anymore, and when you finally do die or move on, they're not going to be available to rent. We're going to sell them because they're not for you. These are for, we can make some money off of this. But like I say, it's just probably a hit piece story. It doesn't really make much difference. But again, just an example of our government doing what it likes and changing the rules as they go along, as most all governments do anyway. But again, where do we find ourselves? We're stuck with this nonsense at the moment, and we're putting up with what we're having to put up with. And it's everywhere to be seen. All the stories I've mentioned tonight, all the stuff that I've talked about, this is all stuff that's there, and it doesn't take much to come to a conclusion that something's not right here, and if that propels you down a further path to investigate, good for you. But like I say, if I mention these kinds of things to people, I just get this blank stare and like, what you on about? What you on about? Do you really care about that? It's like, well, yeah, I do. And more people, maybe, and I know people do. It's just unfortunately there's not too many. But like I say, you have to have a voice. You have to say something. It's not right. People are being, squashed in the UK. Maybe not in such a horrific way as in, Middle Eastern countries. But we're being suppressed in a different way. We're being kept out of the loop. The disposable incomes have been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and mine continues to shrink. And people in work now are even struggling to, even do anything that they would mainly, for them to relax, whatever. They're not able to do that, not even maybe go on a holiday or, whatever. So everybody in this country has been, taxed to death, basically, and stopped really financially from, if you're just below that threshold. I mean, if you're earning, you're in the top rich, then you're fine, or you're earning silly amounts of money. But most of us are below that, and we're just managing to keep our heads above water, really, just to have our normal, if you like, what we consider our normal reality. Yes, the reality. And we're now struggling, especially these last, I'd say, 2 years. It just seems to one thing after another. So, and now we've got the increase in possible food prices. We're going to see the gas go up again. All these things are designed to, keep you, if you like, suppressed financially, and then that can dampen your spirits, because money is energy, and when people don't have any money, they tend to be, some people are quite miserable. But see it for what it is, and I've certainly learned to adapt to my, if you like, slightly less income now, and just get on with it, really, and not let these bastards grind me down any further, because they'll continue to chip away and chip away and chip away until they've taken literally every last penny off you, and you've got nothing left whatsoever. That's the aim. Or you're just surviving on credits, or they'll introduce a new type of money which won't be paper money, like I say, a move towards a cashless society is their sort of, if you like, aim, to remove money, so everyone's just on credit. So again, they know where you are, what you're doing. There's no freedom, and it's getting to that point. We're reaching a sort of crescendo now of madness and craziness, and what's going to tip it the other way? Is something going to happen? Or are we all going to go, right, no more? I think people are getting it with just their basic rights. I think that's happening more and more. I did say this the other day regarding the these people who were investigating into things like free man movement and trust law and understanding your common law rights, and that's just the sort of scratching the surface of it, really. But people are getting more and more into those kinds of areas to and actually carrying it out, and in some cases being very successful, and not being pushed around. I mean, people do, unfortunately, there are stories of people being locked up for not paying council tax and etc. But I think the more people get inspired by others doing it, I think you'll see a sort of domino effect of people saying, no, I'm not paying this anymore. And eventually they can't lock everybody up. I mean, we've said this as well, if a whole town decided, en masse to say, right, let's cancel our direct debits to the local council, and we're not going to pay any of our tax this month, what are they going to do? Issue bailiffs to 100,000 homes? I mean, come on, it's power in numbers, and this is where hopefully we'll defeat the criminality of the system, or just refuse to participate within it, and there will be a bit of pain, but something good will come of it from the end, I think, because the more we continue within this, the more the divide is going to grow, and the more we're going to just see more and more people, if you like, chemically lobotomized with their diet, etc., just to help them along to be even more stupid. And I don't mean that in a horrible way, but it's evident of how some people is just, they haven't had the brain fired up correctly in the nutritional sense, and sometimes the diet that we've all been subjected to, especially these last 10-20 years, and people who've heavily invested their lives into the processed foods and etc. They're not being, they can't think straight, and it's all part of that agenda to get you to be compliant, to get you to be to obey, and to not question them, because to question them, you're being now looked upon as being crazy. You know, like I say, the guy who was locked up in a mental home because he decided to put something on Facebook. You know, this is what they're trying to do. I think this is another angle that they're working. You know, anyone who disagrees with them would be committed to an insane asylum. You know, and because how could you possibly think that way? That's so far out of the normal reality. That's not, you know, you're crazy. So we're probably going to see more and more of these types of instances where people are locked up or are taken away. And like I say, we're seeing them anyway. But as more and more people get it, there'll be different reactions within each individual, how they take to sort of, if you like, an experience of thinking, shit, the government have been screwing us all this time, and or, you know, you can even follow it up to the Crown, you know. So you realise you're just basically a slave. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, because people get really offended when you say you're a slave. And there's no, I'm not a slave. But, you know, anyone in the system is. We all are. Every single one of us. We're all slaves to this system. And unless we decide, of course, to not be part of it and to step outside of that and to take your rights as a human being on the planet and not to be told what to do, and do it in a sort of peaceful, friendly way. And I think you get results that way. Because if you do it in a violent, angry way, we all know what happens. You play straight into the hands of them and they lock you up. And, you know, life can be very miserable then. But yeah, get angry, but when you become aware of the, you know, people around you, and those are the people that maybe you have to fight against in the word sense, don't get violent, don't get angry, just speak what you speak. And again, the fear side of it has to be conquered first. You know, don't see the policeman in the uniform, just see the human being and talk to him like you talk to anybody else. And if you're not a rude person, then you won't talk to him rudely, will you? Or, you know, if you're angry about something, just like I say, just let that go and see the human being. He's conditioned as well, or she's conditioned as well, just like, you know, we all have been. So we've all been there. Just some people and some of us have managed to, if you like, you know, break those shackles off a bit, and we've got one leg free now. You know, and we can see freedom. We want freedom. You know, and these people are still fully shackled. So it's difficult. And I'm sure, you know, anyone who does a horrible, nasty job, like in the army or as a policeman or whatever, I'm sure there's good soldiers and good police. But as we've seen with examples of police lately, the bad ones are, you know, still in there, and they still allow that to happen. And watching some vids the other day, I did see some interesting encounters with the police and how they react to various situations, especially when you challenge them. That's something that people need to get a little bit more clued up on as well, because again, knowing your rights is very, very important. Knowing what you have and have not to give out as information. Again, you know, we don't want to give a policeman our name, but the irony of that is we've got it all on Facebook, and they know where we even shop. So yeah, it's great. It's a mad world we live in. But like I say, just understanding some of your rights and knowing who you are is so important. And as I go on and bang on again about fear, but it's the main thing to let go of. And that's something once you've done, then you're not bothered. You know, someone, you know, don't live in fear in your own home. If someone's knocking on the door, answer your door. You know, it's your home. It's like, what do you want? They can't come barging in. They can't come kicking your door in. And just tell them to go away. Goodbye. Best way to deal with it. But like I say, we're all on this journey together, I think, and it's now, and I was saying this the other day, August now. And we're heading to the end of the year, not far off now, eighth month already, and I've not seen anything majorly changing. And I did say this the other day, I was a bit disappointed, like I say, we haven't had many people out doing the, you know, getting out there on the streets, whatever, but the weather's put pay to that, like I mentioned before, but it does seem that we all are, you know, I think at that point where you feel something's going to give, you feel there's something going to happen, and the economy, as always, looks dodgy, and when they have the power to pull the plug, they'll pull the plug. They'll do that when they're ready. That could be next week or in 20 years' time. You know, this is the control we're under. They have control. They are the master puppeteers, with you know, again being controlled by an even higher elite, whoever they are. But it's all going on, guys. But anyways, it's what is it? 16 minutes past 9, and I've been waffling away quite a bit. I don't want to play another tune. I might play another tune and come back and wrap up and talk about a couple of other things. Just bear with me. Yeah, so I'll be back in about 5 minutes. I'll play you another song and join me then.
We are flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Hi, welcome back. A bit of Elvis Costello there. Can't think what to play. I didn't throw a music list together tonight, guys, so it's been a bit like, what am I going to play? Didn't have time to do that, but I'll sort it out better next week. It'll flow a bit more better. But I've got that many things open and running here. It's a little bit confusing, but like I say, welcome back. I'm going to be on for about another 5 or 10 minutes or so. Just going to mention one story which I did see. This is regarding, I don't know if anyone's seen this, Denver shooting, the Batman shooting. Obviously, everyone knows about that. But an interesting sort of twist in the story. It says the nurse who saw everything at hospital after suspicious Batman shooting is found dead at age 46. And it says a lady here, Jenny Gallagher, a nurse who treated victims. Yeah, I've turned my mic on, so I had a horrible thought that I didn't turn my mic on. It says blah, 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 blah. It says Jenny Gallagher, who treated victims of the highly suspicious Batman shooting in Aurora, Colorado last month, is dead at age 46, and the reported cause of death is drowning. So she worked the morning after the Batman massacre in a very busy unit of the hospital, so she saw everything really, some really bad injuries, her husband Greg reportedly told Ireland's Herald earlier today. It says the mass shooting, which left 12 dead and 58 more injured at a midnight premiere of the Batman movie, says is widely suspected to have been a black operation akin to the Columbine or the Sikh temple shooting, says here. Based on the available evidence, numerous inconsistencies and implausibilities in the official story, the timing and the way the event has been framed, some would say exploited by certain powerful interests in the media and political arena. And it goes on to here, for example, but the fact that she was, you know, it could be nothing, but you know, the fact that she was with these victims, they would have been obviously, you know, conscious. Some of them talking, information maybe, who knows? And just an interesting kind of weird thing there that someone so closely connected with that as a nurse is suddenly found drowned. Not saying there's anything in it, but I just thought interesting how something like